live Q&A. Feel free to drop any questions in if you're dealing with toxic narcissistic abuse, if you're dealing with a toxic guy in your life, and I'm going to be talking about it. I'm redoing my supplements and getting stuff ready for the next couple of weeks, and I figured I'd go ahead and go live because it just works out when I do this for us to talk about narcissistic abuse. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to help provide awareness about narcissistic abuse and help liberate women from toxic relationships, just like the one that I was a person that was doing it. I know how a narcissist thinks. I know how a toxic person thinks because that's who I was. It's how I showed up in a toxic and a negative way that was abusive mentally, emotionally to my wife, and cheating, different affairs, different things that happened inside of our life. You can hear about our entire origin story, everything that happened inside of us. But with this, a big piece of what I do on here is one, try to wake you up to the reality that you're in a toxic relationship, and then two, provide a path and a plan for you to actually heal and move forward. A lot of times people are stuck in a trauma bond, and that's the toxic addiction of going back to the same guy or the same type of guy over and over and over again. And until you actually break the trauma bond, until you actually say, enough is enough, I am done, then it'll continue happening over and over and over again. So today we're just talking narcissistic abuse and just throwing it out there. Where are you at? What's going on? How can I help with this? But otherwise, we're talking about what questions do you have? If you guys are new here, I'm a self-aware narcissist on here to help you understand that you're in a toxic relationship and also provide tools and a plan for you to actually get free. The goal of what I do is to help women go from the chaos and the confusion of the relationship to them understanding with clarity of what's actually happening so that they have the confidence to actually leave and the certainty to stay gone once and for all. You might have found yourself in the situation where you left and then you keep oscillating back to the same guy. You keep going back to a different guy that's the same aspect over and over and over. Maybe this is because you got conditioned this way, because early childhood, you grew up with a narcissistic family, narcissistic home, narcissistic dad, and that brought you to the place that you're going after the same exact type of people. So much so that you feel like you're crazy, you feel like you're insane, you feel like, what is wrong with me? So what questions do you have? Drop questions here inside the chat. Would love to be able to answer them, love to be able to walk through. How did you become aware? Great question. So you can hear about all of that inside of my podcast called Real and Raw with Ben Taylor. But to give you kind of a synopsis, it was a piece that I knew there was something always wrong with me. I didn't know what it was. I didn't have a clue of what was the actual thing, right? I didn't know it was narcissism, but it was this piece that there was something that was wrong. Something that was different. I knew I connected with people different, knew I thought about things different, knew I processed things different, had emotions that were different, all this kind of stuff. And it wasn't until I was working in several team environments that we started taking different quizzes and tests, right? Different personality tests, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, DISC assessments, things like that. And I started to see it just right in front of my face. Of like, yep, you definitely are different in how you think and how you process compared to everybody else. And looking at that, there was like something's wrong. I had no clue what it was. I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. It was just there's something different. And I didn't really connect with people in the same way. Read a book about emotional intelligence that started opening up my mindset and my ideology of like, hey, there's stuff that I have to work on. Read a book by Brene Brown called Daring Greatly, and that introduced to me the concept of shame. I didn't really think or know or acknowledge that I had any type of shame in my life. Ended up then going to a sex addiction intensive. It was a piece where my boss, my wife, they thought I was a sex addict. So they're like, hey, we'll send you to this, see if that fixes everything. And I walked away from that knowing very clearly that I was not a sex addict, but I was a narcissist because it was stuff that I already knew about that came up in conversation that I was avoiding. Now, inside of all of that, I got to the place where I didn't want to really acknowledge it, didn't really want to work on it. So I kind of grudgingly went to therapy at that point. Went to EMDR therapy at first. That was the first experience that I had with any type of therapy. And I was there for about 6 months. And inside of that, started having different things kind of open up for me and realize, oh, there's more stuff underneath the surface than what I actually want to admit, what I actually want to see. So then inside of that, was there 6 months, then went with traditional therapy, like talk therapy, you could say. Did that then, and I've been doing that now with the same person for almost 4.5, I guess going on 5 years. So I know that wasn't like everything by any means, but hopefully that at least gives you a little synopsis or a little idea of just who I am and what's been going on. Great question. Did you struggle with becoming self-aware that you have NPD, and what would you suggest can help someone see clarity without getting entirely triggered? So a big thing is like when you're trying to get someone else to see, the biggest problem with that thought process is thinking one that you can make someone see. No one could make me see. There was not a piece that there was anyone in my life that could speak any type of truth into my life that I was willing to hear. I wasn't willing to hear anything from anybody. I wasn't willing to accept anything from anybody. And so as a result, I was right, they were wrong, and no matter what would happen, like my wife would talk to me about it, she'd say, you're doing this, can you stop? Like there's so many different things. I didn't care because I didn't respect anybody else. I just viewed myself as being the best person on the planet. So as a result, everybody else's opinions were skewed or stupid or anything like that. So I'd always put other people down in that regard. So like accepting it got to a place where I didn't really accept it or realize or even start going down this path until I had someone look me in the face and say, if you want to be a man, you have to stop fucking lying. That was really the piece that kind of started waking me up. And it was partially because I'd already gone the therapy route. I'd already gone the church route. I'd already gone like different pieces trying to figure things out. And no one had really broken down my walls or my barriers that way. But when someone said, hey, you're not a man unless you actually are honest, unless you actually tell the truth, that started shifting. That started like opening and exposing different things inside of me. So I realized, okay, something actually needs to change. Nothing's going to change until I actually change it. So started down that path. And yeah, I could keep going on forever, but I want to get to all these questions. Narcissists are a bit crazy, or they know exactly what they're doing, the possible consequences of it. He knows what he's doing. He's just not looking or caring about the consequences because he's not looking at what's going to happen in the moment. He's not looking at the consequences. It's more of like, I'm going to do what I want to do in the moment. And if that produces a consequence, well, that sucks, but at least I get out of the immediate consequence, right? That's why a narcissist will go and he'll go out and he'll cheat without thinking anything about the other person. Why? Because he's not thinking about ending the relationship or the relationship exploding or the relationship getting worse, all this kind of stuff. All he's thinking about is like what I want in the moment. That's it. So like that's how he's going to continue to think and continue to operate over and over and over again. Last time we met, he said he wanted to work on himself and needs the time away from me to build himself up again because he lost faith in the relationship and said that let time heal all wounds. That sounds like a bunch of BS, like he's just going out to find other women and using that as an excuse. He's telling you that you're on a break, and that's kind of what's happening there. Realize I have to do something different on these. Actually, on 2 of these. Okay. All right. Sorry, I confused myself here for a second, so I'm trying to fix something. All right, we'll get back to these. Do you think narcissists are more in denial or more in delusion? Denial of who they are and delusion of not wanting to believe anything else but themselves. What they want in the moment, what they think in the moment. They're in denial of the truth. Narcissists do not want to have, think, or have anything in regards to the truth. They'd rather run away from the truth because the truth is going to hold them accountable. Truth is going to make them responsible. The truth is going to do different things to them that they do not want to experience or do not want to acknowledge. So narcissist is always going to try to run away from the truth. How long ago was the breakup? Like when my wife left me, I don't know, it's going on like 4 years ago, something like that. I have to look back. I'm awful with timetable. I literally have to have it like written down. I don't have it written down in front of me. Or I have to ask her. That's the easiest way too. But yeah. All right, what other questions do you have? Narcissism, narcissistic abuse. Narcissists live in a perpetual state of fight or flight. Keep hearing that. I don't think that's the right terminology to put on that. A narcissist, I could see the thought process behind it. And the reason why I'm saying that is you could put an argument of they're always living in fight or flight to be able to run away from vulnerability, accountability, shame, to be able to like avoid that piece. I can see that aspect of it, but it's not like there's a narcissist that's out there like shivering in his boots for fear, or he's like running away because he's triggered. Like everything about a narcissist has to do with himself and has to do with his image. So it's not this piece of like, oh no, I'm in fight or flight because of X, Y, and Z. Like, it's like, no, how do I preserve my image? How do I preserve the story? How do I preserve the narrative? Fight or flight is more oftentimes associated with more of a like trauma response with someone else than it is necessarily narcissist being in a fight or flight mode. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Oops. I messed two of these up, so I have to like match them together to make sure they're right. Okay. These are right, so anyways. All right, what other questions do we have? Dealing with a covert narcissist who has left me with a John Deere letter. My ex took the dog, 3 kids, all under 5, stuck trying to co-parent. Co-parenting is one of the hardest pieces. That's because there is no co-parenting with a narcissist. You have to look into parallel parenting and also using the BIF method. Brief, informative, friendly, and firm. It's one of the best ways to be able to try to communicate and interact with a narcissist because he's typically not willing to try to connect. He's just trying to be able to trigger you over and over and over again. Is there anything you are grateful about having know your former loves? I don't understand that question. How often do you do these lives? I just came across your channel. I actually don't, I try to go live every single day for a couple minutes, right? So like 5-10 minutes talking and trying to be able to communicate like a point or a piece that we're walking through. But as far as like getting on like this and doing live Q&A, it's kind of few and far between. A lot of times I forget, or a lot of times life is busy. So I do not do these very often, but feel free to ask any questions just when you're dealing with it. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist, and on this channel, the whole goal is to wake you up to the fact that you're in an abusive relationship. I work with women who have been stuck in toxic relationships, and they no longer want to have a toxic guy control them. And so as a result, they're looking for clarity about the situation, how to rebuild their confidence, and how to make decisions with certainty so they can move forward in the healing process. I walk people through a 2-step process, which is a healing journey and a growth mindset. The healing journey is talking through this piece of breaking the trauma bond, getting rid of that mental, emotional, physical addiction to this guy, and then helping you actually set up healthy boundaries, learning how to say no, finding your purpose of who you're actually called to be and stepping into that. So a lot of what I do is helping people wake up and then move away from the toxic person. But oftentimes that can't happen unless we help you shift the mindset. If you don't shift the mindset, then you stay stuck just long term. That piece is what we talk about as trauma bond. All right, what other questions do you guys have? Got some good ones dropping in here. I absolutely appreciate it. Yeah, you can ask anything and we'll just talk through whatever comes up. So sometimes I'll do this like I'm doing right now, where I'm just putting out my supplements for the next couple of weeks. And so we just chill and just go back and forth. Are narcissists jealous about your accomplishments, hobbies, goals, that they try to purposely steal your own identity? Sometimes it can go to the place of trying to steal your identity. That can be more on the extreme side, not always, but what would be more common inside of that would be to try to degrade or devalue you for your accomplishments. So say for instance, so inside of everything I do, let's say that you're with a narcissist and you make more money than him, right? He's typically going to be offended about that and insecure about that. And as a result, he's going to always try to be able to push you down and try to beat you up like emotionally. So it's like a piece of like, if I can't win on the physical aspect or win on the financial aspect, well, then I'll just try to assassinate your character. That's a big piece that happens. What's your perspective on the idea that psychedelics, mushrooms as therapy for people with NPD? Have you ever done psychedelics before? I have not done psychedelics before. Perspective on it. From what I've seen inside of it, if people are going like just to heal narcissism or to fix it, I have not seen a whole lot of success from that as far as like people saying, hey, I'm going to go fix my narcissism. And the reason why is because it doesn't matter how attuned you can get to your life. If you're not willing to be honest about what you're currently struggling with and actually start doing the work, I would say ahead of time, then I don't really think it's something that necessarily is going to be the most helpful. I've seen some guys who've gone to fix themselves or to fix the narcissism piece and then not do anything. So like if I ever went to it, it would not be for the purpose of fixing my narcissism. It'd be like for the purpose now of like growing, developing like who I am, my connection with myself, with God, all that kind of stuff. Do covert narcissists tend to devalue? Yes, 100%. That's one of their most favorite tactics, right? They want to be able to devalue you so they can feel better about themselves. Again, devaluing you is not because they want to put you down and because they want to just have like this power and control over you. Is that a piece of it? Yes, but the main piece is he wants to feel better about himself. Easiest way to do that, devalue you. Put you down so he feels better about himself. Will narcissists suddenly act like you don't exist? Yeah, 100%. A lot of times a narcissist will pretend that you just like disappear. That could be just even in the relationship, right? He just like ignores you. You come home and he just acts like you're not even there. Why? Because if he can do that, he's like triggering you. He can do that, he can control some of your emotions. He can give you the silent treatment. That's the word for it, right? He gives you the silent treatment, and then after a while, you're like trying to just get through to him. Like, why won't you talk to me? What's going on? And sometimes you might blow up because you're just done. You're so frustrated because he's not even responding. He's not even interacting. A lot of times narcissists will do that to be able to trigger you. So yeah, you do have to be careful about that. So great questions. What other questions do you guys have? If you guys are tuning in and you're like, hey, who is this guy? What's going on? I'm a self-aware narcissist that works with women to break them free of toxic relationships. If you want to know more about what I do, you can go to rawmotivations.com. If you want to apply for a call for us to be able to sit down and talk through and build a plan for you in the healing process, you can go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. Gives you an opportunity to just see a video and fill out an application so I can get to know you and so we can see, hey, if it's a good fit to work together. But what I do is bring people to a place of breaking them free of the trauma bond permanently, once and for all, so they don't keep going back. That's the biggest thing. So we don't want you to keep going back to the toxic guy over and over and over. We want you to be free, long term. What's the purpose of a narcissist showing or emulating empathy? Do they ever genuinely empathize? So the whole purpose of them emulating it is to hook you, to make you think that they have it, and to be able to get you trapped. Now, when I say that they think they have it, majority of narcissists actually have empathy, okay? Bear with me, don't jump off. They have empathy, but they're unwilling to show it, okay? When you read the DSM-5, that's the actual diagnostic criteria for a narcissist, it says lacks empathy, is unwilling to identify or recognize the feelings and needs of others. Meaning that there's a lot of narcissists out there that actually do have empathy, but the thing is they're unwilling to show it. Now, think of it for a second like this. If I know that I've done something to be able to hurt my wife and she's sitting over on the couch and she's crying, there's a piece of me that knows logically, hey, what I should do is go over and give her a hug or go over and be nice or go over and apologize, right? But there's a couple things that go through a narcissist's mind. One, if I go over there, then I'm actually validating her feelings, validating her emotions, which means that I'm the bad guy, which means that I did something wrong. Narcissists don't want to have anything that's wrong. They don't want to feel vulnerable. They don't want to experience the shame and the guilt that come with being the bad guy or doing something wrong. So as a result, they'd rather stand back, hold back any type of empathy or emotional response to be able to control the other person. Yeah, but really just be able to control himself so he doesn't have to deal or feel with that. Do they always have someone else when the relationship ends? The majority of times, narcissist is like preparing and already prepping someone like in the wings. That way, whenever the relationship ends, they have someone to go to. Or a lot of times, narcissist knows that the relationship is over or going down the tube. So he'll automatically have somebody ready. So as soon as you leave, he leaves, whatever might happen, he can step into a new relationship. 100%. A lot of times it happens. How do you know if you're being abusive in general or if it's reactive abuse? Look to see if this pattern of behavior goes to everybody or if it's just geared towards this one person. And also see like what's been the pattern over a long period of time. Is that something that's been happening all of your life or it's just been happening recently? Those are big like signs and keys inside of there. If I reacted badly from the burden of abuse and I finally snapped and screamed, should I apologize for what I said? You can apologize. The biggest thing is if you reacted to abuse, it's like, what are you doing next to be able to help yourself heal, grow, and develop from the abuse? Otherwise, you'll continue to have it and you'll continue to have moments that you react and nothing actually changes. So like the biggest thing is like we have to help you change who you are, how you're showing up. Otherwise, the same thing is going to happen over and over and over again. It's not about the apology. It's not about the reaction. It's about what are you actually going to do about it? Or is this going to be how your life is going to be for the rest of your life? What are you willing to do for you? Ale Toasty said you're a narcissist. Would love to talk to you. I work with a lot of different narcissists as well. If you go to rawmotivations.com, there's a breakthrough call for men. That's for narcissists or toxic guys. So feel free to check that out as well. Do they cause you health problems at purpose? A lot of times that might be more psychopath, sociopath, but yes, that does happen. When a narcissist gets you to react in front of others and are satisfied in the moment, do they ever regret it in the future? Majority of narcissists are not regretting things. That's a piece that majority of narcissists aren't sitting back and being like, man, I regret that I did this. No, they're excited that they had that power and control over you in the moment. So when he did something right in front of other people and it made you react a certain way, a lot of times that's dog whistling. And so dog whistle, right? Like dog whistle, you can't hear, humans can't hear, but dogs can't, right? And so inside of that, when a narcissist is dog whistling, he's doing something that you react to, you respond to, but nobody else understands, nobody else hears it, nobody else sees what's truly going on. So it might be something that sounds innocent to an outside bystander, but it actually is very abusive or toxic because of everything that's been already going on inside the home. How many times he's brought things up, how many times he's shamed you about X, Y, and Z, whatever it might be. So you see a lot of times he'll use these little subtle tactics to be able to make you seem like you're the crazy one out in public. A narcissist blocked me, texts me from a new number, then deletes it before I can even read it. What do I even do? I would get ready to change your number because otherwise you still play victim to only being able to deal with whatever he gives you. If you change your number, he no longer has access to you and you can have a little bit of more space to be able to heal and grow and develop you without having to worry about getting random texts from random numbers. Does a narcissist have a hierarchy on their side of the relationship? They just think that they're number one and everybody else is like stupid or beneath them. What are the signs of a covert narcissist? What are the signs of a covert narcissist has a new supply? Man left hints. After watching unusual, on no Amazon account. After discard, wasn't sure if it was bait. Never watched content like that. Could be. Biggest thing is it doesn't matter if he has a new supply. It matters how you're actually healing. Because if you're just sitting back and you're just watching my content to figure out everything about narcissism, doesn't really help anything. Healing happens with action, not by information. And it's hard because a lot of people are like, well, once I know everything about it, then I'll be able to heal. It's actually not true. Do you know how many people I've talked to that know everything about narcissism? Like on an average, it's not surprising to be able to talk to or have anywhere from like 1 to 2 different therapists. And they'll reach out and will talk to me a week. Sorry, not a week. 1 to 2 that might happen like a month, right? So like it's a piece that like these people know, right? They know, they went to school, they got educated, right? They know, it doesn't matter. Like you can know everything about narcissism, narcissistic abuse, but at the same time, if you're not actually changing and developing who you are and how you're showing up, it's still gonna be a problem. Cognitive empathy, not emotional empathy. Knowing how someone might feel and how someone else feels are different, very different. Yep. Even though narcissists are center of attention, how would they feel if they were triggered by their victim accusing them about feeling bad, feel bad about their own behavior? A lot of times they don't feel bad about their own behavior, so it's not necessarily that you would trigger them. Sorry, there's a bunch of comments trying to catch up. Maslow's theory be applied to health? I don't have a clue. Ignore my narcissistic neighbor, but they continue to constantly make comments out loud. Do I continue to walk past and ignore? I would. I didn't really, the narcissist was, is there a way to not feel like the biggest loser ever after being discarded for their ex? A big piece of that is like, you have to understand, like, if you don't know, like, it's not a piece. Like, if you just don't know what's going on, otherwise, like, you'll beat yourself up. It's not necessarily that you are or that you aren't the biggest loser. It actually has nothing to do with it. It has to do with like what you're actually looking at and what you're realizing that in the moment, you didn't have a clue what was going on, which is why you fell for it to start off with. You have to give yourself some grace and be like, okay, it's not my fault. I understand, like, I got duped into this, right? Because otherwise, you'll beat yourself up so much. So many people beat themselves up about the relationship and beat themselves up about what they did or what they put up with or what they accepted. But the majority of the time, it's like you didn't even know. Like you didn't have a clue of what was actually going on inside the relationship. I was in a 12-year relationship with a misogynistic man. Is it the same as narcissistic abuse or both? Abuse is abuse. I don't really care if it's narcissistic or not. At the end of the day, you have to look at how are you actually feeling and how are you being treated. The majority of times people want to find a label so they either feel better about themselves, they justify leaving. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't have a label to leave. You should be able to look at what's happening, what's the evidence in my life of how I'm being treated, of how I'm being lied to, of how I'm being cheated on, and make your decision from there. I can feel the narcissist scared of me arguing, pointing issue about us. He was just silent on the phone. Now he's out of reach. Message him to explain myself, but message never seen. Yeah, he might just be running and going to the next person by now. I'm around mine a lot. Noticed that his temper was getting worse. We got into an argument and he sent me a video of him and a girl kissing today. We were together 6 years. A lot of times we'll do different things like that to be able to trigger you. How do you deal with their silent treatment? You let them go silent and you actually focus on yourself. The biggest thing is that you try to be able to fix the silent treatment. That's what the silent treatment is for. The silent treatment is made for you to be able to grovel and come back and be like, what did I do wrong? Maybe you didn't do anything wrong and he's just using it to manipulate you. That's what the silent treatment is made for. When he goes silent on you and he has the silent treatment, you need to focus on your healing, because that's like your one spot. That's like your one area where you can really focus on you, growing, developing who you are, how you're showing up. It's one of the biggest things that can happen when you deal with the silent treatment. Do you think they know when you figure them out and are planning the awareness exit? Yeah, a lot of times they can feel the energy shift. I just did a video of like when narcissists know that you know. How to get rid of my anger issues towards someone from the neighborhood who disrespected and mistreated me. Every time I see him, my heartbeat gets so high. No one even notices it. So inside of that, like a big piece is we teach people how to be able to process the anger. Anger is not a bad thing. A lot of times people want to have guilt and shame around anger, but anger can be channeled into something helpful. Like, what do you actually desire out of that relationship, out of that connection? How do you want to show up? What do you actually want? Is there help for me as a narcissist, or is there no hope? 100% there's help for you if you're willing to be honest. If you're not willing to be honest, then there is no hope, right? Because no one can heal. Narcissist, empath, doesn't matter. Human on the planet. No one can move forward in the healing process unless they're willing to be honest about where they currently are and what's happening. Willpower only goes so far. Willpower doesn't go past honesty. Like, if you have tons of willpower, but you're not being honest with yourself, then it's not going to actually do anything. Does a narcissistic parent become more abusive closer to death? A lot of times, just because the barriers go down, they just don't simply care. Would love to be able to help you inside of this. Like, if you guys are struggling in a toxic relationship, you're trying to figure out clarity, get some closure after what just happened, then go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. You can book a free call there and just be able to talk to me. We can build a plan of how to help you heal, move forward, and grow and develop. Is there a chance that I am narcissistic if I am attracted to narcissistic men, or is it that I am targeted? What makes me attractive for a narcissist? So it doesn't mean that you're a narcissist. Oftentimes it means that you either have no boundaries or you don't know who you are. And as a result, it's easy for a narcissist to be able to get you in a place where you're craving his validation and you're moving towards him over and over. The trick inside of that is we have to help you break the addictive cycle that you have going back and forth to toxic men. And then we have to help you stand up for yourself, learn how to say no, learn how to have healthy boundaries, learn how to have that tied to your purpose of who you actually want to be. Is there a group you stated we can sign up that you host? Yeah, that would be going to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. You can book a free call there. We can see if you're a good fit. But I work with a lot of people most exclusively inside of our Thriver community. It's an intensive that I run that focuses on breaking the trauma bond, working through and processing the triggers so we can eradicate them completely, helping you stand up for yourself with learning how to say no, finding your purpose, rediscovering who you are. A lot of that goes into there. 18-year-old daughter is extremely narcissistic, has BPD. As patient and supportive as I am, it seems I can't do anything right, and I'm verbally abused on the daily, normally in front of my younger. Yeah, that's super hard, especially like BPD is super hard to be able to deal with and be able to process, because if she can't deal with some of the emotional stability, the abandonment issues, sometimes the shame piece too, that's one of the biggest things that has to get worked on. How long after your wife leaving did you decide that you really needed to change? And what went through your mind when that change happened? Did you miss her? Was it something different for you? So great question. My wife left and she was gone about a little bit over 4 months before she came back. When she left, I'd already done 6 months of EMDR therapy and I'd already done 5 months of regular therapy when she left. So it wasn't like she left and then I was like, oh, I need to change. Like, I already knew I needed to change, but I was soul rolling it and I wasn't trying as hard as what I actually should. There's pieces of it that I was still working through. through, piece of I still trying to understand, but the walk and talk wasn't there. I hadn't fully cut off all previous supplies, hadn't cut off all affair partners. There was a lot of things that hadn't shifted completely. So when she left, there was a piece of me just doing whatever I wanted, right? It was a piece of, okay, well, she's gone. Now I can do what I want to do. I can go where I want to go, all this kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, it was this piece that I knew if I didn't change who I was, the cycle was going to continue over and over with the next person and the next person and the next person. Why are the narcissists mean to their own parents or siblings? Why just the wife? Oftentimes the parents or siblings either automatically accept them because they don't see them in the same way. The narcissists are already like loved and appreciated by them in a certain way and accepted for all their flaws, or the family's narcissistic and they're sweeping under the rug. The amount of times I looked aside the red flags, but it was serious. They all share the same tendencies. Unless they're not willing to accept that they have NPD and work on themselves, keep the narcissist in your rearview mirror and concentrate on the road ahead. Yeah, the honesty piece is the big piece. So if you're in a toxic relationship and the guy is not willing to be honest, vulnerable, or show consistency in his change, leave, get out, and go no contact. If you're also in the place where you continue watching narcissistic content to keep you grounded, stop. Book a call, rawmotivations.com/breakthrough, because otherwise you're just consuming. You're just being voyeuristic and moving through life and you're not actually taking action. Everything I do inside the coaching world is creating action in your life. Like, what are we going to do differently to produce different results? Because if you're doing the same thing over and over and over and getting the same results, well, yeah, that's the definition of insanity. People get stuck in toxic relationships and they cycle back with the same guy or same type of guy 1, 2, 3, 7, 20 times. It's incredible how many times it happens, but it's because of the subconscious programming and conditioning that you get trained to. Just continue to go back over and over and over. Until we break that, until we change that, you can't expect anything different. Great questions tonight. They already threaten harm, like they see you cry, even threaten your life. I mean, seriously, what more is there to find out? Yeah, definitely like leave with that. I'm not sure if I explained this right, but when we build our friendship from teenage years and adult years later on in life, we evolved into narcissists by our friendships. No, you don't become a narcissist by your friendships. It's by early childhood. Thank you for sharing that your wife is brave. What is she doing for herself to own her part in all of this? Like you stated, we need better boundaries. So she has a ton of boundaries and some really good ones. She has some boundaries that I don't even know about, right? Because she's healed herself and she's broken the trauma and she's moved to a place where, like, if I did anything that was like toxic, she would like call me out like really quickly. I'm asking so I can understand what else we can do to be better. So the biggest thing inside of it, so going back to your question, the biggest thing inside of it is we have to be able to teach you how to create healthy boundaries. And we also have to break the trauma bond and help you heal fully so that you never go back to the same cycle, right? It's not even about going back to the same guy. It's about the same cycle, same toxicity over and over and over again. That's the biggest thing that I work with. So, Cassie, like reach out, go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough, watch the video tonight, fill an application, like book a call, let's talk. Because inside of that, I can build a plan. We can walk you through how to actually heal and how to actually go through this piece. Why do you do what? Sorry, just put in like the whole question so I understand. Why the flying monkeys? Wasn't hurting me in the relationship enough? Why hurt your own children? So there's like a bunch of questions there. Why the flying monkeys? Flying monkeys help support the narcissist facade and version of reality. So the narcissist is like, let me bring other people to my side so that I feel better about myself and so I can convince other people that they're crazy or they're stupid or they're abusive, whatever it might be. Right? Wasn't hurting me in the relationship enough. So here's the harsh reality. Hurting in the relationship actually never really crossed his mind because he didn't really care. He didn't care about you. He didn't care about the relationship. What he cared about is his own image and what was going on with him. So as a result, he did whatever he wanted, whatever was right in his own mind. And as a result, if that hurt you, it's like, oops, well, at least it didn't hurt me. That's the main thought process. Narcissists is not always looking to see how they can hurt and abuse you. They're looking how they can make their image look and feel the best thing ever. And if that means that he hurts you, well, at least he's not hurt. That's the thought process. After healing over the last 4 years and ended contact in 2023, February 2025, Valentine's Day, why did he try so hard to get back in my life with gifts and ignore the fact that he hurt me? He's typically going to ignore the fact that he hurts you because he doesn't want to be accountable, responsible. That would be the honest thing to do, and he's not going to do that, right? He's going to sweep it on the rug so he can try to get back in. Now, why he tried could be a lot of different things. Maybe his current supplier already dumped him. Maybe he's feeling lonely because he can't find anybody to be with because he's an abusive asshole. There's a lot of different reasons why. The main thing is like, what do you do about it, right? Continue that block, continue to contact, continue to focus on you, because healing has to happen apart from this guy that's going to keep coming back in your life over and over to trigger you. The ex-narcissist hoovered me again 16 years later. I discarded him for a final time 17 months ago. Lorraine, would love for you to reach out. So you can go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. The reason why I say this is because like that's a long time to work on yourself and then have you fall back into it. I want to make sure that we help you build yourself up, like line upon line, step upon step, so that you actually get to a place that even if he came back into your life, you'd be like, yeah, right. Not because just simply because of you, because of how much you've grown and developed, so that this guy doesn't even pull at you anymore. Doesn't tug at your heartstrings. Like that's the piece we have to help you get to, is a place of indifference. Do victims sometimes share narcissistic traits or behaviors? Typically not. But some people will be like, well, everybody has a little bit of narcissism in them or different traits. And like, I get that whole thing. But inside of it, the majority of people that are with a narcissist or that in a toxic relationship are not narcissists, and they don't have narcissistic traits. They might have maladaptive practices that could look at times like narcissism, or could look like, we'll call them narcissistic fleas, like things that you pick up off of toxicity to help survive. Right? So you might not be normally you might not be a liar, right? But you might become a liar so that you avoid all the abusive explosions and the rage, the beatings, all that kind of stuff, right? And so after you get out of the relationship, you might still have times where you feel like you need to lie, simply because that's been ingrained in you as a survival mechanism. Doesn't mean that you're toxic, means that it's an abuse and a trauma response. I mean, to the extent of the narcissist that they are way too extreme. Why is it one of the hardest relationships to leave from, a relationship that had a trauma bond with us versus a normal one? Because the person that you fell in love with doesn't exist, and the person you fell in love with purposely created an image and a facade for you to fall in love with, so that once he pulled it back, you would continue to look for it over and over. So basically, it's like someone who got you addicted to heroin, and then was like, wasn't that cool? Yeah, you like that. All right, so if you want more, you have to keep following me. That's really what it is. You develop an addiction to this guy. It's like a physical addiction. It's mental and emotional, but it's like a physical addiction to this person. And so you keep going back over and over, even if logically you're like, I don't want this guy, I don't want this relationship, you'll still go back so many different times because of the trauma bond. The trauma bond is built off of hope and potential, cognitive dissonance, and intermittent reinforcement. And all of these three things make this addictive cocktail that keeps you going back to this guy over and over and over. Trauma bond is specifically what my program and what I work with people to break. Because if we don't break the trauma bond, the cycle continues over and over and over again. Holiday romance. First time he used me to make his ex jealous, and she hoovered herself back in. Second time at a funeral, my stepdad. Yeah, a lot of times you leverage other people to get other people. I heard the reason was a shared fantasy. Not shared, but you could say trauma bond would be like a fantasy, because you're fantasizing, thinking that it's going to be a relationship that it's actually not. What is good to think of someone is not bad, but behaves like a covert narcissist? He is just on his phone all the time, doesn't listen to me, responds. He really doesn't care, but I am happy with him. Okay? So if you're happy with him, then I'm not sure what the question is. Thanks for your knowledge and perspective. Yeah, you're welcome. Is it just as simple as recognizing the patterns to not end up with another narcissist? I wish. I wish. But unfortunately, what I would say with a lot of people is it's not. And the reason why I'd say that is because I meet with 1 to 2 therapists a month that will come to me because they've been or they are in a toxic relationship. Recently just brought someone into the Thriver program, and she's a counselor, right? She works with people to help them deal with this. And she was in a toxic relationship. Why? Because it doesn't matter all of the knowledge, all of the book learning, all the book smarts you have. It looks different on a piece of paper than it does in real life. And so all of a sudden you get in a toxic relationship, and someone who's in one of those roles or one of those fields looks themselves in the mirror and they're like, I'm so stupid. Like, I should have known better. Why didn't I see this? But they're exactly in the same place that every single person is. Because it doesn't matter how much you know. It doesn't matter how much you know. There's a lot of people that know a ton about narcissism and they still fall into it. Why? Because they don't know who they are, or they don't have healthy boundaries. And every time I say that, there's at least a couple people that like cringe or get frustrated at that. But here's the thing I need you to understand. If you know that you're driving from wherever you're driving to New York City, You've been planning this for 20 years. It's like the epic journey of a lifetime, and you know that's where you're going to go. And you get to the first intersection and you have somebody stop you there and they say, hey, I want to go to Chicago. Can you go to Chicago instead of New York City? And you're like, no, I don't want to go to Chicago. I've been planning this for 20 years. This is one of the most exciting things I've ever done. And I'm planning on going to New York City, and this is where I'm going. And they're like, are you sure? I'm like, I really want you to go to Chicago with me. And they're like, no, this is where I'm going. Then you go to the next city and someone's like, hey, I want you to go to Illinois with me. I want you to go to Canada with me, whatever it might be, right? You constantly have people trying to pull you off track, but you keep saying no because you know what you want. You know who you want to be. You want to be that person that shows up in New York City. And that's something you have actually designed and planned. What that is you having boundaries. So when I say people don't have boundaries, people are like, yeah, I have boundaries. Well, the person who says they're going to New York City and they don't let anything deter them has really healthy boundaries, because they know exactly what they want and they're going to continue moving forward to it regardless of what other people are going to say. So when you keep falling into a toxic relationships, but you keep telling yourself that you have healthy boundaries, you're lying to yourself. And the reason why I say that is because you can't have healthy boundaries about you and continue to fall into toxicity. It's like a car that continues to drive off the road. If you put up guardrails, you're not going to drive off the road. But for people that are like, yeah, I have guardrails, and they keep driving off the road, I'm like, I don't see guardrails there. Boundaries are not a thing that's limiting to you, or they're not rules and limits to another person. A boundary is like a guardrail, keeping you in line with the direction, the purpose that you actually want to be, direction and purpose of who you actually want to be. And so you're always going to have someone who's going to pull you off, push you off the side of the road. A healthy boundary keeps you on track of who you actually want and what you actually want to unlock for you. Do narcissists learn from their behavior from their parents or taught it from media influences? It could always be a little bit of both, but they are products of their upbringing. Whether that could be the parents were narcissistic, sure. It doesn't have to be narcissistic parents. It could be different abuse that happens inside there too. The problem with healthy boundaries are there are constantly new people trying to sell you a new route. Yeah, that's why you have to know who you are and the direction you want to go. There's always going to be someone trying to sell you a new route. I've done a lot of work on myself for 7 years since my ex-husband of 16 years. I dated someone last year who shocked me in his behaviors after 4 months. I left in October to find myself, continued. Shocked that I didn't see it sooner and hurt because I did allow my heart to get attached. I think I have healthy boundaries and know who I am, not perfectly good, and healthy community to walk me, not perfect, but good, and healthy community to walk me in it too. Cassie, that's awesome. So inside of that, like a big piece is like, you're still gonna get triggered and you're still gonna have things that happen, right? The goal is that we help you work with the triggers so that you see this stuff sooner, but then the triggers don't affect you, right? It's not something that someone can walk into your life and pull you to the side so easily, but you can continue to grow and develop you. Anytime I meet with someone, I'm never discounting the healing you've already done. I'm just establishing where you are right now and where you want to go, and what's the gap in between. That's every single aspect. Consider for a moment, if you got everything you wanted in life right now, click everything you wanted in life right now, you'd still be left with the question, what do you want? And after you achieved everything that you wanted, you'd still be left with the question, what do you want? So the reason why I work with every single person, no matter where they are inside their journey, like there's people that have been out of a relationship that'll work with me. Why? Because they get clear of where they are, what they want, what the gap is in between, and I show them, hey, here's the plan. We're going to walk step by step until you actually achieve what you say you want to achieve. Action. It's the biggest thing. Coaching with action is one of the biggest things that I think it helps people. He loved being self-employed so he could sneak out to spend time with the secret supply. Totally makes sense. How do you perceive yourself as a healing narcissist versus the way you lived before you were healing? So there's been a lot of work internally, a lot of work mentally, a lot of work spiritually, a lot of work with therapists, a lot of work with coaching to be able to shift my mindset about who I am. As I continue to grow and develop, you have to come to the question, and I had to come to the question of who am I? Right? If I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, hey, if I don't act like a narcissist, talk like a narcissist, show up like a narcissist, am I still a narcissist? There's all those different questions, right? And I struggled with this piece of identity. And identity was a piece that God kind of worked in my life to release that, let go of it, and then step into a place of knowing who I am now. That's the whole piece. So growing, developing has been this long journey inside of it to get to a place of being like, hey, that's not how I show up, but I do know exactly how a narcissist thinks and do know exactly how a narcissist shows up because that's who I was and that's how I showed up consistently. Toxic, abusive, lying, manipulating, gaslighting, the whole 9 yards to make sure that everybody else saw me the way that I wanted them to see me, not who I actually was. I caught my narcissist cheating on me this weekend. What's next for me? 24 hours of no contact. Morticia, I would say like no contact as best you can, right? If you go no contact and you keep opening up the door to him, right? You keep blocking and going back or blocking and then talking to him, then just start limiting it. Don't go to a place where you just go no contact and then you beat yourself up because you break the no contact. That's the thing that I don't like pushing people to. I'll say no contact all day long, but people that I coach with, I'm like, hey, if it's a piece that I'm gonna tell you go no contact and you go no contact and you break it within the next week, I'd rather you just limit contact so that you don't beat yourself up for breaking your own promise. That's a big thing. Would love to talk to you, particularly like go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. Would be a great time for you just to watch a video that I have there. It'll talk you through a couple of things that you might be doing right now or you might have already tried, and also give an option just to book a free call. And let us actually sit down and build a plan for you so that you can stay true to who you are and moving forward. I'm married to him. He moved out 2 months ago. I moved somewhere where I know nobody. I'm slowly creating my own life, however, is helping me a lot. He, however, is helping me a lot with the bills and rent. How do I ask him and avoid the conflict and still get the help? How do you ask him what? Like, ask him to be able to help with the bills and rent or what? I'm not sure what you're asking him. Ex-narcissist lied to me 3 months in the relationship and continued throughout. The majority of narcissists are always going to lie. We put ourselves involved in jobs, business, in a workplace. Do we have authority to contact someone if a narcissistic boss crosses the line in our own personal life? Yeah, you might have to go above that boss. You might have to talk to somebody. If you divorce a narcissist husband, do they continue to support their children financially? Typically not, unless it makes themselves look good, because they're typically worried about their image and worried about money. Are narcissists always good looking and use that as their anchor to their behavior? Nope, a lot of them are not, and it's not necessarily an anchor. There's a lot of narcissists that might be like grandiose and like vain about it, yeah, but it's not necessarily like the anchor piece. How do you ask questions about him still helping you? You're just going to have to stick to the facts, be short and sweet, and make sure that when you communicate, you're just communicating like factually, very emotionless, and then ask the question, disconnect, right? It's going to be really hard because the majority of narcissists are not willing to actually help you afterwards because their help afterwards is trying to figure out how they still control you. He lives in a different city, so it's been great. No Hoover, no flying monkeys, just peace. That's awesome. What are you doing then to heal you? How are you focusing on you? What is your biggest regret in your journey before you started your work? Besides all of it, I would say that, so there's like a couple different things inside of that. Like, yes, there's a piece of regret completely on everything. But there's also a piece of understanding that everything I went through also set me up for who I am today. And the reason why I say that is never to justify or never to excuse away any of the pain that I caused in the past. And that would probably be the biggest regret, is like the pain that I caused to my wife, the pain that I caused to other individuals, like the lives that I destroyed. But it's also a piece that if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here today. If that hadn't happened, there wouldn't have been hundreds that we've already helped heal, thousands that have already heard the news, like tons of people that have been liberated from toxic relationships. So does that justify? No, not at all. I'm not saying that. But when we talk about regret, there's a piece that, yeah, there's regret there, but there's also a piece that that's what I was brought through, and that's who I was to make who I am today. Your reaction time is impressive. Good Lord, it's like an emotional crossword. I'm trying, though. My healing is gym, dieting, isolations, and educations, trusting with words and actions, syncing together forever. Now I'm meeting. Yeah, that's really great. So like focus. Brady, one of the things that you might be needing to work through is like not just breaking the trauma bond, but just resetting life, right? That'd be a really great place for you to be able to check out. We have a challenge called Unchained. It's at trappedtofreedom.com. trappedtofreedom.com. It'd be a great place for you just to be able to see. It's an easy place to be able to get started with us, but also be able to get involved with a community that's going to help you heal and move through that process. I know you said right now that you can't work. That's also one of the cheaper challenges that we have, and just be able to give you something right now to be able to help you move forward too. If all narcissist exes were in the room together, what is something you might say to them? I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question. That's really cool. If all narcissists, that's kind of a cool question. If all our narcissist exes were in a room together, what is something you might say to them? So let's say someone who is in or out of, yeah, so you're saying ex, out of. Feelings lie, focus on facts, Stop caring about him and learn to care for you. That's what I say. Even after healing and moving on with treatment and counseling, how do I forgive myself for falling into that cycle, or do I just see it a blessing of growth? First off, you have to consider like you're trying to forgive something that doesn't need to be forgived, simply because when you're trying to forgive yourself, you're trying to be like, how do I forgive myself for being so stupid? Well, how do you forgive yourself at being 3 years old and not understanding algebra? Do you see what I mean? Like you're trying to be able to forgive yourself for something that doesn't need to be forgiven because you didn't understand. It wasn't that you're like, hey, I met this guy. He said he could sign up for a couple of years and be the worst abusive asshole, and then I'd accept it, and I'd lose my identity and my sense of self, and I'd feel like a piece of shit afterwards. You didn't do that. You didn't have a clue of what you got into. So part of it is not necessarily just forgiveness. It's giving yourself grace, understanding that you didn't know what you didn't know. One of the hardest things about being educated about narcissistic abuse is the whiplash of looking back at the past and judging yourself in the past based on knowledge you have in the present. You can't do that. You have to give yourself some grace. And just like you don't look at yourself at 3 years old and beat yourself up for not understanding algebra. You didn't know because you didn't know. It's a process. It's a piece of growth. Do you ever find yourself having temptations to do it again? And how do you handle that? Anytime that I'm tempted to be able to be abusive or like go back, like all of that is going back to emotional regulation and going back to dealing with the truth, the facts of the situation. So I have a process that I use and that we teach all of our clients, which is called stacking, which is helping reframe and rewire the mindset. Same thing that breaks the trauma bond, same things that helps liberate people from the relationship. Rewiring helps shift the ideas and the thoughts and the process, so it no longer is something that has hold. The whole piece inside of narcissism and eradicating that out of my life is like going to the gym. It's like a consistent daily practice, a consistent daily choice of saying, this is how I want to show up. And the more you go, the stronger you get, the more stamina you get, the stronger you feel, the more energy you have. And it's easier to be able to combat that, and it's easier not to continue to try to knock down those doors. All nurses are liars, 100%. I agree. Do you feel good, bad, or just indifferent as a narcissist for others' struggles? It's a really good question. So what I would say is I logically and cognitively feel bad, but I don't bring that in emotionally into calls. And the reason why is because as a coach, it's not my job and my purpose to get on a call and cry with you. Why? Because if I do that, it'll help you release a little bit, but it doesn't help you heal. Healing comes with taking action. Healing comes with the next step. Healing comes with how do you actually take that pain, that sadness, and shift it into something to help liberate your mindset. So I'll get on a call and I'll be able to work through a call and help people. So that means I provide space, like emotional space. If someone starts crying, I'm like, it's okay, you can cry. Because you have to be able to get things out. But I'm not gonna engage on that level of emotion simply because my job as a coach is to help see the path and help you walk down it. Not to just sit there and be like, yeah, this sucks. Yeah, it sucks. And I'm gonna show you how to heal from it. That's the goal. Realize your worth, confidence is an illusion. Nobody knows if it's real or not. I don't know what that was going back to, sorry. Can someone with NPD ever view their children as little humans and show proper love to them and not view them as objects that they own? No, because they view them as objects that they own, just like they view you as an object that they own. Like that's like being like, hey, can the narcissist start feeling like me? If he's not willing to be honest, vulnerable, and show consistent change, then no. Why do narcissists blame you for cheating? Typically because he's already cheating and he wants you to cheat, so he feels better about himself. He wants you to accept cheating, so he feels better about himself. It's all projection, so he feels better about himself. What changed for you to start helping yourself and figure out that you are a previous narcissist? A lot of different things I talked about actually at the beginning of the live, but you can go onto Real and Raw with Ben Taylor. It's a podcast that I have, and you can look up Origin Story. That actually walks you through the whole thing, be the best way to be able to give an idea. Anyways, you all have asked a really awesome questions. You all have had some great time to be able to work through this. I'm currently still living with parents, and it's been difficult to help me trust people in the workplace. Should I be better off finding a career coach just to focus on my own career goals? If that's what you're looking for, that like better off than what? I'm not really sure what you're asking. If there is alcohol and smoking addiction in the narcissist, is it hard for them to change? 100%, 100%, because all of those are sedations, all of those are coping mechanisms, all of those are sedating to be able to keep things down. So I typically would say, and I've seen this first case with working with different guys that are toxic, I've seen it first case. If you don't deal with the addiction first, narcissism's off the table. Like, you can't even bring it up. You can't even talk about it. Why? Because they can't even get down to it. There's so much like layers and shit that they've already put, walls that they put up, you can't even get underneath it. Should I ask my children to stop contact with their narcissist father? You should ask them what they want. You should ask them if they feel safe. You should ask them if it's something that they want to continue to do. Not to stop, you should ask them what they want. And so the reason why I say that is because you tell them, I want you to stop talking to your dad, they're immediately going to push against that, and they're immediately going to go to his defense. Even if they know he's a toxic person, it'll just be an 8. Why? Because that's a parental figure in their life. They're automatically going to want to defend. You want to be careful about this. You want to provide emotional support, provide space, provide an area for they feel emotionally safe to talk to you and support them in their decisions, because he's not going to do that. What do narcissists fake? Why do narcissists fake being normal? So they can get you, so they can be with you, so they can connect with you, so they can try to like connect and build a relationship so that they will feel and seem normal. Oh, okay. Better off finding a career coach than dealing with my own toxic workplace for my own life. You could. I would just start looking at jobs and figure out like what you want. How do I approach a new relationship after toxic relationship with a narcissist, or how do I know I'm ready for a healthy relationship? A lot of times what I say is not that you're not triggered, but that you no longer think about him. You think about him and it's indifference, right? It's not a piece you're continually getting pulled back, because if it's the rumination still there, you still have a trauma bond. You're still tied emotionally, mentally, spiritually. There's still something there. Julie, would love to be able to talk to you and be able to help you walk through this. Whether you work with me or not, I don't care, but just a piece of like, hey, if we can actually build a plan, see where you're at, that might be really helpful for you. A lot of people that I talk to, we'll sit down, we'll figure out where you're at, where you want to go, what's the barriers in between. It's all on my coaching goes. Because if we can help you see the barriers, it gives you a plan. And if that plan works for you to work with me, totally fine. If not, then you at least walk away with a plan. Narcissistic amnesia, do you actually forget? Do you have a collection of actions? So I think there is a period of time where you have so many lies over such a period of time that you do have sort of like amnesia. And I don't say that to excuse. I just say that there's a lot of stuff in my past that I don't remember, don't recall at all. That's because everything I was doing was just looking forward of like past in the past, gone, and wipe the slate clean, new day, right? I didn't want to even acknowledge it or deal with it. Julie would love to talk. Just go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. It's the easiest way to be able to see a quick video there from me, and then just fill an application for a free call. Okay. Where can I get therapy for narcissistic abuse? Jennifer, that's what I do in helping you break the trauma bond, reestablish who you are, learn how to set healthy boundaries, and never fall back into the same cycle. You can go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. You can be able to see a bunch of different testimonials and people that I've worked with that are completely free, like broken free from the toxic relationship, no longer have that hold or that tie. Wanted to remain friends even though he had a secret supply. Yeah, narcissists always remain friends to have control of you. Why does a narcissist stay in a long-term relationship? Could be working for him. Like, he might be able to have his cake and eat it too, right? There could be a piece that is working out financially, physically, whatever it might be. It's always going to be for his own benefit. Really breaks my heart for them. I know I'm not his savior. Praying is the only thing I can do to help him because he has to want that for himself 100%. When I found out his behaviors, he said he wanted to change it, but he didn't know what to do. He doesn't have healthy relationships around him. Would you agree that we submit that to God and let go? Yeah, you can't be a savior, and you can't be the person that's going to break down his barriers magically and make him understand. Why? Because he hasn't respected you for such a long period of time. He's not magically going to respect you now to be able to hear you. The closest you can ever do is like refer them or send them a video from somebody. Like, I work with narcissists, I work with toxic guys, but the biggest thing I say inside of that, because I'll have women that will want to set their husbands up with me and they have no clue, and I'm like, stop wasting your time. I don't want to talk to him. Like, if he doesn't watch my video and actually want to talk to me, then I don't want to talk to him, because I don't want to waste my time with someone that's just trying to BS his way into saying I'm changing and growing when he's actually not. So it has to be his decision. It has to be his willingness to actually do it. If not, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. What narcissist hopes for when you go no contact, getting back in and having control back over you. That you'll reach back out, that he's trained you enough to be able to break your own contact and you come back. A lot of really good questions. We're going to wrap it up for tonight. It's been almost an hour and you all have done a fantastic job asking questions. What I would just ask is if you're in a relationship like this and you resonate with anything I've said tonight, stop watching more content and go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. You can be a person who consumes a ton of content, and a ton of content will help. But what'll help more is having a community to support you that understands and knows what you're going through, but is already broken free. When you start to see that other people have liberated themselves, followed a plan and a path to be able to break the trauma bond, eradicate the triggers, and reestablish who they are, what's not to lose? Inside of that, if you see yourself inside of this video, if you resonate with anything I've said today, go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. It's a video that you need to watch from me, a short application to be able to see where you're at, and then book a free call. When we sit down on the call, we're going to talk through a couple different things. I've got availability this week for you to be able to book a call and for us to talk through first, where are you at? What's going on? How is that affecting you? How is that impacting you? What's the cost of that continuing to impact you? Then we can talk about what do you want? What's the direction you want to go? What's the life that you want to live? What's the woman that you want to show up as? And then we're going to break down what's in between, the challenges, the barriers. You're going to get more out of an hour session of us just talking through some of these things than you will sometimes in therapy. And it's not bashing therapy. It's just I go in with a very consistent frame and I know exactly what we need to talk through and know exactly what questions to ask you to help you see things that you don't currently see. We'll have different epiphanies and different pieces that'll come out just of initial call where you start to realize that there's been different patterns or behaviors or things that have had you stuck in a toxic relationship that need to be changed. So if this resonates with you, go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. Or if you can't type that in, or if it sounds confusing, just go to rawmotivations.com. There'll be links there for Breakthrough Call for Women. Big thing inside of this is I want to be able to help you. But the big thing is you have to want to help you. You have to see that you're worthy. You have to see that you're valuable. You have to see that no matter the story that he's sold you, the version of reality that he's convinced you that you're awful or stupid or ridiculous or not good enough, it's not true. It's just a lie to make himself feel better about himself. It's just a lie because he's already insecure. It's a lie because he's scared to lose you, because then what happens to his image? Still always comes back to him. Never get that confused. This piece inside of this, I just want you to understand. You can get all the knowledge in the world, but all the knowledge doesn't help you break free. That's what I'm going to help. I'm going to walk you through 2 parts, healing journey and growth mindset. Break the trauma bond, eradicate the triggers, learn how to say no, and develop who you are, your purpose and direction, and knowing that moving forward. If this resonates with you today, go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough, and we'll talk soon. Y'all have a blessed, wonderful evening.